This is how I set up my A7s III. Hey, if you don't know me, my name's Jake, and I create content here on YouTube to help solo creators on the go. People like me who are on the go creating small commercial projects or stuff for here on YouTube. So I test and review equipment here in Alaska, and I do tips and tutorials on how to use that equipment so you can tell better stories. This is going to be a rather long video, so there are timestamps down in the description if you want to skip around and find the parts that specifically interest you. Today I'm going to show you how I've set up the A7s III to work for me the fastest and the most easy access to all the settings that I use regularly as a video shooter and sometimes as a photo shooter, including the custom memory settings on the dial and the custom buttons. And I've set it up to get the default out of camera colors to pretty much where I want them so that I can throw them straight in an editor and then post them straight to YouTube with almost no or very little color grading. Jumping straight into it, first off, the My Menu settings are really great to be able to use to access things that you need to access regularly that are not necessarily things you want to assign to a custom button. It's easy to add items, to sort items, to move things around. So this is what I have mine set up. I have it set up for zoom, clear image zoom. I also have this mapped to a custom button and audio record level, which I also have mapped to a custom button. Maybe I should change those things. Format, because I always format cards before every shoot to make sure I get the best possible for performance and there's no confusion on whose files goes with what project. Keeps it easy that way. Airplane mode I keep on to save battery life, but occasionally if I'm going to use my phone to remote view or remote start and stop recording, I can just turn it on real quick and easy here. Monitor brightness I also have here so that I can switch between bright sunny weather and the normal default kind of auto mode, which I have turned way down. You can't see it in here because it's going through the Atomos recorder, but to save as much battery life as possible when I'm not using the monitor heavily out in bright conditions, I keep it turned way, way down. Interval shooting is something I actually use a lot with this camera because I love shooting time lapses with this camera. So having the settings for interval shooting right there easily accessed where I can turn it on and then go through and set everything up is really nice. And then I also have silent mode settings in case I'm filming or photographing somewhere where, they need to be quiet. And now let's jump into image quality. Now, before we go into the video settings for photo, I always shoot in RAW because I like to be able to edit them the most I can in post. So I go RAW and uncompressed. I want the most amount of quality that I can get. You may find that works for you. It's only 12 megapixels on the sensor, so the file sizes aren't very large, even though they're uncompressed. But you can also shoot RAW and JPEG together if you want to do quick sharing on social media and stuff like that. And that's pretty much it for photos. Pretty much everything else is the same between the movies and photo settings as far as here. There are a couple of custom buttons that are a little different, and we'll get to those here in just a minute. But for video quality, for the movie dial, I have this set to XAVC-S 4K, and here I use that for 30 frames a second and 140 megabits a second 422 10-bit because the 10-bit is absolutely fantastic on this camera. Now, when it comes to shooting in my memory settings, memory 1, memory 2, memory 3 on the mode dial here, I have memory 1 is set to what I generally shoot in all of the time. All of this type of stuff and anything I'm doing like that out, which is 24 frames a second at 100 megabits 422 10-bit. Now, memory recall 2 is a little different. I shoot that in XAVC-S-I, which is the highest quality you can get out of the camera in 4K. And not only is it XAVC-S-I in 422 10-bit, but this is where I shoot Picture Profile 8, which is S-Log 3, S-Gamut Cine 3, which gives you the highest amount of detail, the highest amount of dynamic range that you can get out of this camera. And I set the color phase to +2, thanks to Gerald Undone for helping to offset a little bit of that green and make it a little more natural. And then detail I have set to -4. That gives you the most amount of range, the most amount of detail out of this camera possible. Most of the time I shoot in memory recall position 1, which is 24, 422 10-bit and XAVC-S because the file sizes are smaller, they're fairly easy to edit, but it's not a big deal. For memory recall 3, I have set to 422 10-bit XAVC-S and 4K 120 frames a second. That's my high-speed slow motion. And before we jump back into the screen recording, for the S&Q settings, I have that set to HD 240, and then I have it conform to a 24 frames a second timeline. Now, if you're shooting in 30, you want to have that conform to 30, but that is where you want to get that super slow motion. Proxy settings, I don't use proxies, but you can have this make proxy files for you if you want to, and then pull in the proxy files and then link the proxy files after you're done editing them. I don't have a problem editing with the way this is set up on my 2016 MacBook Pro. I don't really use proxies. If I really need to use proxies, I will have Final Cut Pro generate them for me. Lens compensation. For lens compensation, I always do have this on just because I like to use it that way. And the biggest one that I find is the deal breaker, or the thing that makes it worth it for me, is the distortion compensation. I have that on auto. Sometimes I use lenses that have a little bit of distortion, so having this camera compensate for the distortion automatically makes it a little faster workflow in post. Now in file settings, this is really cool about the A7s III is you can actually title it whatever you want. So I have this set as A7s III, so then when I pull all the footage in, it says A7s III 0001, 0002, stuff like that. It makes it very easy to sort which camera goes to which, and then maybe I'll do a video about how I sort and kind of manage my file system when I'm pulling footage into Final Cut. But for this, it makes it really easy to kind of sort and figure out what's going, what came from where. For exposure mode, I always shoot manual exposure, but I have the ISO set to auto because that generally does a good job. And then I use Freewell variable ND filters to make sure I can set for basically the lowest ISO I can get, so 100, maybe 200, but still have the aperture set to where I want the aperture set and the frame rate set to where I want the frame rate set. Also down here is where you can set your camera recall settings, so your memory 1, 2, and 3. Basically what you do is go through and set all the settings you want, your frame rate, your shutter, your ISO, any of that stuff, and then save it here into memory slot 1, 2, or 3. On the audio stuff, there's a lot of things you can do, but I have it set to lip sync because I want the audio coming in through a microphone to match what's being seen on the camera. It's also helpful for live streaming if you do that sort of thing. I keep wind noise reduction off because it does a big cut and you lose a lot of low frequencies, which if you're using a good quality mic, you shouldn't have to worry about anyway. And then I always have the audio level display on because I like to see what my audio levels are doing when I'm out recording. Steady shot. When it comes to steady shot, I love the active steady shot in the camera. I don't use Catalyst Browse very often. The active steady shot does what it needs to do for 90% of what I'm shooting for myself for here on YouTube. If I'm doing stuff for clients, I generally use a gimbal, but steady shot being active is really handy. And then you have it set to auto for the most part. But if I am using a manual lens like the Sony, these here, they don't tell the camera what focal length they are. So to get the best performance out of your steady shot, you want to go in here and change the focal length to match whatever the focal length of the lens is to make sure that you're getting the most out of your steady shot. But if you're using an electronic lens like the Tamrons or the Sonys, they will tell the camera what the focal length is, and it will adjust as you go in and out of a zoom range so that you get the best steady shot you can out of the camera. Another setting that I change from the default is zoom. Zoom range by default is set to optical zoom only, but I do work with some APS-C lenses like the Sony anamorphic series, and so I've set this to clear image zoom so that I can access clear image zoom quickly via a custom button when I want to. I don't do it that often, but it is nice to have when I want to. Right here, if you go down to exposure and color and you go into color tone, this is where I have the creative look set for the way I want to. I'm a big believer in especially shooting for stuff like this on YouTube to be able to pull the files in and basically go with them. So I like to get 90–95% of the way I want the camera to look in camera. It's not the way everybody likes to work, but it is the way I like to work. Find the way you like to work and go with that. So what I've done is tweak the creative look for the standard setting. I've added +2 for contrast. I've left the highlights alone. I've -2 for shadows. I've added +2 for saturation, and then I've added +4 for clarity. I've found that that gives me pretty much what I want to see out of camera. I might tweak the exposure levels a little bit in post, but generally, color-wise, if you set your white balance, I like the way this works, and it works for me. It may be different for you. Pretty much anything I haven't mentioned so far or anything I'm skipping through here, I've just left at the default Sony settings that came from the factory. Now, Focus Assistant is something I do use. I have the initial focus magnifier at 4 so that I can really punch in and see exactly what's in focus. This is especially useful when you're shooting photos at night or shooting video at night, and manual autofocus is maybe not necessarily going to handle the situation as well. And then peaking display is something else I use quite a bit. So anytime you switch into manual focus, peaking display will come on if you have this set to on. And I have it set to mid and red because I find that to be easiest to kind of see and find when I'm out shooting. For focus, I have it set to continuous autofocus. I have the transition speed at 5, and I have the shift sensitivity at 5, which is the most responsive. Occasionally I've found I need to drop that down so that the camera isn't moving as much. If my subject is really actively moving a lot, then I'll drop that down to something less. And then if we drop all the way down to setup, over here is where you can customize your custom keys, the dials, everything else. And it's extremely handy to be able to customize these buttons and access lots of features that you don't need to necessarily or don't want to go into a menu setting to access. Custom key settings. For the most part, I have them set all the same for photo and video modes. And this is why, because the more you do something the same between everything, the less you have to think about it or remember where something was, and the faster you get. So especially when you're switching between photo and video modes quickly, or you're moving quickly and trying to capture things as they happen, it's really nice to not be able to have to think about something and just know this is where you can change your white balance, this is where you can change your focus mode, this is where you can access this. So what I recommend is if you use this setting or you don't use my settings, that's fine. But whatever you do, set it up that way, set it up for a way that works for you and the modes and the things that you need the most, and then use it that way all the time. Don't change it unless you absolutely have to, because it builds muscle memory and you won't have to think about it as much when you're out on a shoot. I have the control wheel set to ISO, so I can quickly go from auto ISO to lock in an ISO if I want to. Number 2, which is the auto exposure lock, I never really use that, so I set that to my clear image zoom, so I can quickly punch in, punch out if I need to. That I've left to the autofocus, manual focus toggle between manual and autofocus, which I find really handy sometimes. Yeah, C1 or the number 4 here, I have set to focus area so I can quickly switch between wide. Sometimes I want to use center fix. Sometimes I want to use flexible spot where you can move the little box around and really lock in focus on something. But for the most part, I use it in wide because I'm filming people a lot and the eye autofocus is really great on this camera. Number 5 or C3, I have set to my menu so I can quickly pull up my menu, change any settings I want to change, or format cards, things like that, access the interval settings, stuff I showed you before, which makes it really nice. And number 6, I have to be able to turn touch operation on the screen on and off. So I can turn it on, I can select something I want to track to focus, and it just works really well and really fast. Going down, number 1 is audio signals, and this is one place where it's different between video and photo because you can't select audio signal levels in photo mode. So I have that set when I'm in video mode. This button is actually being able to set my audio record levels, and I'll show you that in a second. Number 2, the center, if I want to punch in to see the focus magnifier so I can make sure I'm getting stuff just in tack sharp focus, that's what I use there. Drive mode, when you want to switch in photos, you want to switch between your regular shooting mode to high-speed shooting mode, or you want to set a delay where there's the 2, 5, or 10-second delay before it takes a photo. If you're taking photos of yourself, that's really handy. Being able to select those things really quickly right there is really nice. Number 4, if you punch in on that, then you can scroll down on the ISO, and the nice thing is that when you do that, let me show you, if you punch in on that, and then you use the rear dial here, it jumps in whole stops in the ISO. So it's a really quick way to get around setting your ISO to whatever you need it to be. Number 5 down is monitor brightness. So that I can quickly jump between sunny, bright weather, super bright monitor, which actually works well as a face light at night if you're filming yourself at night, or the dimmed down version of the monitor there as well. Number 1, when I'm in photo mode, is live view display, which means it shows an image that is easier to see and easier to tell if I'm in focus or not. Kind of gives you an idea of what the finished photo will look like. It ramps up the ISO, it way slows down the shutter speed so that you can get a little more clear picture of what it's going to look like when you actually take the image. But it's really handy for getting things in focus and having an idea, especially if you're doing astrophotography, of what your image might look like if you're trying to compose a shot with foreground elements. And number 2, on everything, I have it set for white balance. All of my profiles, the memory recalls, all those start out in auto white balance, but I always select a white balance that I'm shooting in. So if it's a sunny day, I'll select sunny day because I don't want the white balance to change between shots if I'm, a cloud goes in front of the sky. If a cloud goes in front of the sun or I'm walking in and out of shady areas, I want the white balance just to stay where it is. So I always have that set, and I lock the white balance for whatever settings that I'm shooting in. And if there's a button on the lens, I only have one, it's the 24 G Master. I have that set to focus hold, so I can find focus of something and then lock it that way with that button. I don't use it very often, but it is nice to have. Now, for video custom keys, everything's pretty much set to follow custom except for number 1, this one back here, the 5D button, which is kind of rough. If you push that, it'll bring up the audio record dialog so you can quickly adjust the audio record settings. Generally mine are between 2 and 4 for the microphones I use, but if I don't have a microphone on, sometimes I'll put it up around 15, 16, just so I can get an idea of what's going on around, audio-wise. For if it's a B camera or I want to match it up with audio later, then it's easy to do that. The rest of these are all set to follow custom. In movie mode, this becomes movie start and stop recording, and this is, number 2 is of course white balance like the other one. I haven't really messed around with the function menu settings because I found that between my menu and everything else here, I can access everything I need to access. I always have record with shutter button on because I prefer to use this to start and stop recording. I like it that way. So that's what that does. It changes the shutter button when you're in movie mode to start and stop recording. Now, when you're in photo mode, that still just takes photo. My dial settings, I haven't messed with that. I have the front set to my shutter speed and the rear is set to my aperture. That's the way I've always used things, so that's what's normal for me. If you decide you're gonna shoot in S-Log, like I have my memory recall 2 position set for S-Log all I, because that's high quality, that's an S-Log 3, then it's helpful to have the Gamma Display Assist on and to auto. That way in the screen, it will look like it's going to look like roughly in a 709 color space. So it will have color, it won't be super flat, which means it's easier to find focus to make sure your exposure is pretty close to what you want it to be. For sound options, I don't do much except for turn the volume all the way up so that if I want to check a clip and I don't have headphones, I can kind of hear it through this, although the speakers are really terrible. And then I just have channel 1, channel 2 because I don't do 4-channel recording, at least not yet. USB, I have it auto multi because that works with the gimbals that I use, so it makes it so I can stop recording and control some of the camera settings with the gimbal rather than having to touch the camera while it's on the gimbal. And I always have USB power supply on because I use it for streaming. It recharges the camera battery really fast, but it also makes it so that if I'm running this off a power delivery USB power supply, then the battery basically doesn't drain at all, which is helpful for long form interview kind of content. External output, I generally have this set where I do not have info on and it's outputting at 1080p because I live stream with this camera and that's all I really need. You might find you need something else, but these are a few things that are important to have on. A couple of other things that are important to have on in your power settings is I have it set to go power save at 5 minutes. You might find you don't need 5 minutes, but I do. And then I always have auto power off temperature set to high in all my Sony cameras because otherwise, it seems like they think they're overheating a little bit early, even though I shoot outside in the winter and the cold a lot. It just helps, especially when I'm shooting indoors, to make sure the camera's not going to accidentally power off in the middle of an interview or something like that. And one other thing is that I've taken the settings from my camera, and there's a file linked in the description that you can grab all the settings, basically put it on a card, and then load the settings from here. I'm plugged in, so I can't do that, but basically it'll pull all the settings that I've got set up for my camera into your camera and you can play around with them as you feel like and adjust them as you feel like from there. Back for focus. For focus, I use face and eye priority on and human because that's generally what I'm filming, and I have it set to select the left or right eye automatically, whichever one is closer. It does a fantastic job of focusing on people and locking focus on people when you have face and eye detect on. If you want to see what some great accessories and lenses are for Sony cameras, then click or tap there. I've put together a small playlist. I'll see you in one of those videos. As always, if you have questions, ask me in the comments below or join my live stream Wednesday nights, 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you again soon in the next video. Cheers!